Hey y'all, it's Kim. So obviously from our previous videos, Joe Biden has made a reemergence. He went on The View and is trying to, I guess, push a book deal and all kinds of stuff. But before he comes back for sure, we need to re-look at the Robert Hur report. I don't know if you remember him, but he was special counsel for the DOJ. It says while everyone is distracted, breaking news, special counsel Robert Hur has spent the last 2 days interviewing Joe Biden regarding the classified document scandal. This is from October 9th, 2023. Let's see what they have to say on here. This is only 30 seconds. Hold
I
on.
felt that
Why isn't it working? Hold on. Where is it
the
at?
last two, you felt the tension. We have a little breaking news. Special counsel Robert Hur has spent the last 2 days interviewing Joe Biden related to those classified documents he had in Delaware and in his office in D.C. That's breaking news. How much you want to bet Biden doesn't remember a whole lot, and his most frequented word is probably, anyway. I gotta go.
Well, why did they just say that? I mean, we were railing against Biden not appearing on campus, on camera. Right. Why didn't he just say that?
Ooh, I can't wait to see the actual video of it. Okay, it says everyone should reread what Robert Hur wrote about Biden. It's even more stunning in retrospect. The media screamed that Hur was a MAGA fanatic, but in truth, Hur was trying to help Democrats by giving them a heads up about how badly Biden had deteriorated. They didn't listen. It says, I still want to hear the recordings from Biden's interview with Robert Hur. We were denied that opportunity because the Democrats were still trying to hide his incompetence and cognitive decline. Joe was never in charge of his own presidency. And it says, when he was found incompetent to stand trial for his own crimes, he should have been, or should have been the day he was found incompetent to pardon others for theirs. And then turns out special counsel Robert Hur, who let Joe Biden off the felony hook for stealing classified docs, was directly involved in protecting the FBI in the Russia collusion investigation. He doesn't serve the Constitution, he only serves the deep state. And then we'll look at one more. It says special counsel Robert Hur acted as judge and jury for the crimes committed by Joe Biden. Biden should have been brought to trial and let the Biden's lawyers argue diminished capacity. So let's see here. This is the full report. It says U.S. Department of Justice Special Counsel's Office, February 5th, 2024. The Attorney General of the United States, RE report of the special counsel on the investigation into unauthorized removal, retention, and disclosure of classified documents discovered at locations including the Penn Biden Center and the Delaware private residence of President Joseph R. Biden Jr. Dear Attorney General Garland, so Merrick Garland, thank God he's no longer in charge. It says, enclosed, please find a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions I have reached as required by 28 CFR, whatever, 600.8 C. As we previously discussed, at the request of the White House counsel and personal counsel to President Biden, collectively counsel, I agreed with certain conditions including non-disclosure to allow counsel to review a draft of the report for purposes of determining whether to assert any claim of privilege and otherwise provide comments to the special counsel's office. Counsel reviewed a draft of the report on February 3rd and 4th of 2024. Earlier today, counsel submitted to my office the enclosed letter. After reviewing their letter, my team and I corrected the following minor errors. The draft report stated that we received the materials that were deemed to be classified at the top secret, sensitive, compartmented information level. I guess it's GIF. when the National Security Council conducted pre-publication review for the Reagan diaries. Draft report N811. We have amended that sentence by adding some of after the word reviewed. In Chapter 12, the draft report cited Chapter 4 in a footnote. Draft report N892. We have amended that footnote to read CID or ID, whatever, and NARA archivist 1, and then whatever these page numbers, I'm assuming. And then the draft report included a section heading that read marked classified document and second floor office, draft report at 333. We have amended that heading to read marked classified document in third level den. It says the Attorney General of the United States, February 5th, 2024, page 2. My team and I also corrected several typographical errors that we identified on our own, and we removed a watermark and headers that designated the document as a confidential draft. After reviewing the draft report, the relevant intelligence agencies have identified no content that is classified or otherwise unfit for public disclosure. The White House counsel has not conveyed to me the president's decision as to assertions or executive privilege. I understand that the White House counsel will convey such decisions to you directly. Thank you for allowing the special counsel's office to conduct our investigation independently and for supporting us with the necessary resources. I am extraordinarily grateful for the thorough, careful, and diligent work of the Department of Justice employees who worked on this matter. I'm deeply honored to have served with them. Respectfully, Robert Hur, Special Counsel. Enclosures report letter from the council. Okay, so this is a report on the investigation into unauthorized removal, retention, and disclosure of classified documents discovered at locations including the Penn Biden Center in the Delaware private residence of President Joseph R. Biden Jr. Special Counsel Robert Hur submitted pursuant to 28 CFR 6800 or 600.8 C, Washington, D.C., February 2024. And remember, these documents were removed by him while he was still like vice president. Only a president can remove documents. Here's like basically the summary pages. There's a lot of them. Let's see. It says executive summary would conclude that no criminal charges are warranted in this matter. We would reach the same conclusion even if Department of Justice policy did not foreclose criminal charges against the sitting president. Our investigation uncovered evidence that President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen. These materials included marked classified documents about military and foreign policy in Afghanistan. Wow. And notebooks containing Mr. Biden's handwritten entries about issues of national security and foreign policy implicating sensitive intelligence sources and methods. FBI agents recovered these materials from the garage, offices, and basement den in Mr. Biden's Wilmington, Delaware home. However, for the reasons summarized below, we conclude that the evidence does not establish Mr. Biden's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Prosecution of Mr. Biden is also unwarranted based on our consideration of the aggravating and mitigating factors set forth the Department of Justice's principles of federal prosecution. For these reasons, we decline prosecution of Mr. Biden. And in a perfect world, he would have been for all of those things that they just outlined. Okay, so the classified documents and other materials recovered in this case span Mr. Biden's career in national public life. During that career, Mr. Biden has long seen himself as a historic figure. Elected to the Senate at age 29, he considered running for president as early as 1980 and did so in 88, 2008, and 2020. He believed his record during decades in the Senate made him worthy of the presidency, and he collected papers and artifacts related to significant issues and events in his career. He used these materials to write memoirs, published in 2007 and 2017 to document his legacy and to cite as evidence that he was a man of presidential timber. 2009, then Vice President Biden strongly opposed his military's plan to send more troops to Afghanistan. U.S. policy in Afghanistan was deeply important to Mr. Biden, and he labored to dissuade President Obama from escalating America's involvement there and repeating what Mr. Biden believed was a mistake akin to Vietnam. Despite Mr. Biden's advice, President Obama ordered a surge of additional U.S. troops, and Mr. Biden's views endured sharp criticism from others within and outside of the administration, but he always believed history would prove him right. He retained materials documenting his opposition to the troop surge, including a classified handwritten memo he sent President Obama over the 2009 Thanksgiving holiday and related marked classified documents. FBI agents discovered these materials from Mr. Biden's Delaware garage and home office in December 2022 and January 2023. So these are within the last 3 years, 2 years. Also, during his 8 years as vice president, Mr. Biden regularly wrote notes by hand in notebooks. Some of these notes related to classified subjects, including the president's daily brief and National Security Council meetings, and some of the notes are themselves classified. After the vice presidency, Mr. Biden kept those classified notebooks in unsecured and unauthorized spaces at his Virginia and Delaware homes and used some of the notebooks as reference materials for his second memoir, Promise Me, Dad, which was published in 2017. To our knowledge, no one has identified any classified information published in Promise Me, Dad, but Mr. Biden shared information, including some classified information, from those notebooks with his ghostwriter. FBI agents recovered the notebooks from the office and basement den in Mr. Biden's Delaware home in January 2023. Marked classified documents about Afghanistan. These documents from fall 2009 have classification markings up to the top secret, sensitive, compartmented, so SCIF level, compartmented information level. They were found in a box in Mr. Biden's Delaware garage that contained other material of great personal significance to him and that he appears to have personally used and accessed. The marked classified documents were found along with drafts of the handwritten 2009 Thanksgiving memo Mr. Biden sent President Obama in a last-ditch effort to persuade him not to send additional troops to Afghanistan. These materials were proof of the stand that Mr. Biden took in what he regarded as among the most important decisions of his vice presidency. Mr. Biden wrote his 2007 and 2017 memoirs with the help of a ghostwriter. In a recorded conversation with this ghostwriter in February 2017, about a month after he left office, Mr. Biden said, while referencing his 2009 Thanksgiving memo, that he had just found all the classified stuff downstairs. At the time, he was renting a home in Virginia where he met his ghostwriter to work on his second memoir. Downstairs from where they met was Mr. Biden's office, where he stored his papers. He moved out of the Virginia home in 2019, consolidating his belongings in Delaware, where FBI agents later found marked classified documents about the Afghanistan troop surge in his garage. Evidence supports the inference that when Mr. Biden said in 2017 that he had just found all the classified stuff downstairs in Virginia, he was referring to the same marked classified documents about Afghanistan that FBI agents found in 2022 in his Delaware garage. Nevertheless, we do not believe this evidence is sufficient, as jurors would likely find reasonable doubt for one or more of several reasons, both when he served as vice president and when the Afghanistan documents were found in Mr. Biden's Delaware garage in 2022. His possession of them in his Delaware home was not a basis for prosecution because, as vice president and president, he had authority to keep classified documents in his home. Okay, well, see, I didn't know that, but they made it sound like that you weren't supposed to do that as a vice president. But either way, it said unauthorized. So how much more do you need? Anyway, the best case for charges would rely on Mr. Biden's possession of the Afghanistan documents in his Virginia home in February 2017, when he was a private citizen and when he told his ghostwriter he had just found classified material. Several defenses are likely to create reasonable doubt as to such charges. For example, Mr. Biden could have found the classified Afghanistan documents at his Virginia home in 2017 and then forgotten about them soon after. This could convince some reasonable jurors that he did not retain them willfully. When Mr. Biden told his ghostwriter about finding all the classified stuff downstairs, his tone was matter of fact. For a person who had viewed classified documents nearly every day for 8 years as vice president, including regularly in his home, finding classified documents at home less than a month after leaving office could have been an unremarkable and forgettable event. Notably, the classified Afghanistan documents did not come up again in Mr. Biden's dozens of hours of recorded conversations with the ghostwriter or in his book. In the place where the Afghanistan documents were eventually found in Mr. Biden's Delaware garage, in a badly damaged box surrounded by household detritus, suggests the documents might have been forgotten. In addition, Mr. Biden's memory was significantly limited both during his recorded interviews with the ghostwriter in 2017 and his interview with our office in 2023, and his cooperation with our investigation, including by reporting to the government that the Afghanistan documents were in his Delaware garage, will likely convince some jurors that he made an innocent mistake rather than acting willfully. That is with intent to break the law, as the statute requires. Another viable defense is that Mr. Biden might not have retained the classified Afghanistan documents in his Virginia home at all. Could have been stored by mistake and without his knowledge at his Delaware home since the time he was vice president, as were other classified documents recovered during our investigation. This would rebut charges that he willfully retained the documents in Virginia. Given Mr. Biden's limited precision and recall during his interviews with his ghostwriter and with our office, jurors may hesitate to place too much evidentiary weight on a single 8-word utterance to his ghostwriter about finding classified documents in Virginia. And in the absence of other more direct evidence, we searched for such additional evidence and found it wanting. In particular, no witness, photo, email, text message, or any other evidence conclusively places the Afghanistan documents at their Virginia home in 2017. In addition to this shortage of evidence, there are other innocent explanations for the documents that we cannot refute. When Mr. Biden told his ghostwriter he just found all the classified stuff downstairs, he could have been referring to something other than the Afghanistan documents, and our report discusses these possibilities in detail. We've also considered that at trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a juror or to a jury, as he did during our interview of him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory, or crazy like a fox. Anyway, based on our direct interactions with and observations of him, he's someone for whom many jurors will want to identify reasonable doubt. It would be difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him. By then, a former president, well into his 80s, of a serious felony that requires a mental state of willfulness, which I don't doubt he didn't do it willfully, but whatever. They can say whatever they want here. We conclude the evidence is not sufficient to convict, and we decline to recommend prosecution of Mr. Biden for his retention of the classified Afghanistan documents. Notebooks containing classified information, FBI agents recovered from unlocked drawers in the office and basement den of Mr. Biden's Delaware home a set of notebooks he used as vice president. Evidence shows that he knew the notebooks contained classified information. Mr. Biden wrote down obviously sensitive information discussed during intelligence briefings with President Obama and meetings in the White House Situation Room about matters of national security and military and foreign policy. And while reading his notebook entries aloud during meetings with this ghostwriter, Mr. Biden sometimes skipped over presumptively classified material and warned his ghostwriter the entries must be classified. But at least 3 times, Mr. Biden read from classified entries aloud to his ghostwriter, nearly verbatim. Some evidence also suggests Mr. Biden knew he could not keep classified handwritten notes at home after leaving office. Mr. Biden, who had decades of experience with classified information, was deeply familiar with the measures taken to safeguard classified information and the need for those measures to prevent harm to national security. Asked about reports that former President Trump had kept classified documents at his own home, Mr. Biden wondered how anyone could be that irresponsible and voiced concern about what data was in there that may compromise sources and methods. While vice president, he kept his notebooks in a White House safe for a time, in contrast with his decision after leaving office to keep them at home in unlocked drawers. When Mr. Biden left office, he also knew his staff decided to store note cards containing his classified notes in a secure, compartmented information facility, or a SCIF, at the National Archives, and he knew his notebooks contained the same type of classified information. As he told his ghostwriter during a recorded interview, the same staff who arranged to secure his classified note cards didn't even know he had retained possession of his classified notebooks. Twice in 2017, Mr. Biden visited the National Archives SCIF to review his classified note cards while writing his book. Yet he kept his notebooks, which also contained classified information, in unlocked drawers at home. He had strong motivations to do so and to ignore the rules for properly handling the classified information in his notebooks. He consulted the notebooks liberally during hours of discussions with his ghostwriter and viewed them as highly private and valued possessions, with which he was willing or unwilling to part. We do not, however, believe this evidence would meet the government's burden at trial, particularly the requirement to prove that Mr. Biden intended to do something the law forbids. Consistent with statements Mr. Biden made during our interview of him and arguments made by the White House counsel, Mr. Biden's personal counsel, we expect Mr. Biden's defense at trial would be that he thought his notebooks were his personal property and he was allowed to take them home, even if they contained classified information. During our interview of him, Mr. Biden was emphatic, declaring that his notebooks are my property and that every president before me has done the exact same thing. That is, kept handwritten classified materials after leaving office. He also cited the diaries that President Reagan kept in his private home after leaving office, noting that they included classified information. Contemporaneous evidence suggests that when Mr. Biden left office in 2017, he believed he was allowed to keep the notebooks in his home. In a recorded conversation with this ghostwriter in April 2017, Mr. Biden explained that despite his staff's view to the contrary, he did not think he was required to turn in his note cards to the National Archives, where they were stored in a SCIF, and he had not wanted to do so. At trial, he would argue plausibly that he thought the same about his notebooks. If this is what Mr. Biden thought, we believe he was mistaken about what the law permits, but his view finds some support in historical practice. The clearest example is President Reagan, who left the White House in 1989 with 8 years worth of handwritten diaries, which he appears to have kept at his California home, even though they contain top secret information. During criminal or litigation involving a former Reagan administration official in 1989 and 90, the Department of Justice stated in public court filings that the currently classified diaries were Mr. Reagan's personal records. Yet we know of no steps the department or other agencies took to investigate Mr. Reagan for mishandling classified information or to retrieve or secure his diaries. Most jurors would likely find evidence of the precedent or this precedent and Mr. Biden's claimed reliance on it, which we expect would be admitted at trial to be compelling evidence that Mr. Biden did not act willfully. As with the marked classified documents, because the evidence is not sufficient to convict Mr. Biden for willfully retaining the notebooks, we decline prosecution. We also consider whether Mr. Biden willfully disclosed national defense information to his ghostwriter by reading aloud certain classified notebook passages to the ghostwriter nearly verbatim on at least 3 occasions. Mr. Biden should have known that by reading his unfiltered notes about classified meetings in the Situation Room, he risked sharing classified information with his ghostwriter. But the evidence does not show that when Mr. Biden shared the specific passages with his ghostwriter, Mr. Biden knew the passages were classified and intended to share classified information. Mr. Biden's lapses in attention and vigilance demonstrate why former officials should not keep classified or materials unsecured at home and read them aloud to others, but jurors could well conclude that Mr. Biden's actions were unintentional. We therefore decline to charge Mr. Biden for disclosure of these passages to his ghostwriter. Principles of federal prosecution. We also evaluated all relevant considerations in aggravation and mitigation as outlined in the Justice Manual and determined that on balance, these factors do not support prosecution of Mr. Biden. Of course, it wasn't. Historically, after leaving office, many former presidents and vice presidents have knowingly taken home sensitive materials related to national security from their administrations without being charged with crimes. This historical record is important context for judging whether and why to charge a former vice president and former president, as Mr. Biden would be when susceptible to prosecution for similar actions taken by several of his predecessors. With one exception, there's no record of the Department of Justice prosecuting a former president or vice president for mishandling classified documents from his own administration. The exception is former President Trump. It is not our role to assess the criminal charges pending against Mr. Trump, but several material distinctions between Mr. Trump's case and Mr. Biden's are clear. Unlike the evidence involving Mr. Biden, the allegations set forth in the indictment of Mr. Trump, if proven, will present serious aggravating facts. Most notably, after being given multiple chances to return classified documents and avoid prosecution, Mr. Trump allegedly did the opposite. According to the indictment, he not only refused to return the documents for many months, but he also obstructed justice by enlisting others to destroy evidence and then lie about it. In contrast, Mr. Biden turned in classified documents to the National Archives and the Department of Justice, consenting to the search of multiple locations, including his homes, sat for a voluntary interview, and in other ways cooperated with the investigation. In reaching our decision, we did not consider every circumstance in which criminal charges against a former president or vice president for mishandling classified information may be warranted. But on the facts of this case, the fundamental interests of society do not require criminal charges against Mr. Biden. Of course they didn't. For this additional reason, applying the principles of federal prosecution set forth in the Justice Manual, we decline prosecution, of course. And the practice of retaining classified material is in unsecured locations, and reading classified material to one's ghostwriter presents serious risks to national security, given the vulnerability of extraordinarily sensitive information to loss or compromise to America's adversaries. The department routinely highlights such risks when pursuing classified mishandling prosecutions, but addressing those risks to criminal charges, the only means available to this office, is not the proper remedy here. Of course, other classified materials for other recovered classified documents. After a thorough investigation, the decision to decline criminal charges was straightforward. The FBI recovered additional marked classified documents at the Penn Biden Center, elsewhere in Mr. Biden's Delaware home, and in collections of his Senate papers at the University of Delaware. But the evidence suggests that Mr. Biden did not willfully retain these documents and that they could plausibly have been brought to these locations by mistake. We also investigated whether persons other than Mr. Biden knowingly mishandled these classified documents, and our investigation showed that they did not. In reaching these conclusions, we note the numerous previous instances in which marked classified documents have been discovered intermixed with the personal papers of former executive branch officials and members of Congress. Mr. Biden's ghostwriter and destruction of evidence. After learning of the special counsel's appointment in this matter, Mr. Biden's ghostwriter deleted audio recordings he had created of his discussions with Mr. Biden during the writing of Mr. Biden's 2017 memoir. The recordings had significant evidentiary value. After telling the special counsel's office what he had done, the ghostwriter turned over his computer and external hard drive and consented to their search. Based on the FBI's analysis, it appears the FBI recovered all deleted audio files related to the memoir, though portions of a file or a few of the files appears to be missing, which is possible when forensic tools are used to recover deleted files. The ghostwriter kept and did not delete or attempt to delete his near verbatim transcripts of the recording and produced these transcripts to us, including for each of the incomplete recovered files. We considered whether to charge the ghostwriter with obstruction of justice, but we believe the evidence would be insufficient to obtain a conviction and therefore declined to prosecute him. Of course. While the ghostwriter admitted that he deleted the recordings after he learned of the special counsel's investigation, the evidence falls short of proving beyond a reasonable doubt the intended to impede an investigation, which is the intent required by law. Please. In his interviews, the ghostwriter offered plausible, innocent reasons for why he deleted recordings. He also preserved his transcripts to contain some of the most incriminating information against Mr. Biden, including his statement about finding all the classified stuff downstairs in 2017, which is inconsistent with an intent to impede an investigation by destroying evidence. What? Oh my gosh. And the ghostwriter voluntarily produced the investigators his notes and the devices from which the recordings were recovered. For these reasons, we believe that the admissible evidence would not suffice to obtain a conviction of the ghostwriter for obstruction of justice. On balance, relevant aggravating and mitigating factors also do not support his prosecution. Wow. So basically, Joe Biden got away with it. Anyway, I'm going to stop it here because it's going to go over time. These things only give me like 40 minutes, and that was a lot of reading. But anyway, I'm going to look at the actual transcript, and then we'll see what all we can get recorded here. Anyway, talk to y'all later. Bye.